The purple sky of Kepler-4 to be glowed with an angry red light as the evacuation sirens screamed across the crystal cities. Chancellor Nara pressed her hands against the cold window of the council chamber, watching millions of her people flee toward the underground shelters. Her skin flickered between deep blue and silver, the colors of fear and sadness that all Zephrians showed when death was near. Behind her, the emergency council argued in voices that grew higher with each passing minute, but Nara barely heard them. Her eyes were fixed on the children being carried by their parents toward the shelter entrances. Their small faces glowed soft yellow with confusion. They did not understand why the adults were crying, Chancellor Admiral Kess said, his voice breaking the silence. The final report from the outer colonies has arrived. Nara turned slowly. Admiral Kess was old, his skin permanently marked with the silver scars that Zephrians got from deep space radiation. He had fought in 3 wars and survived the Great Plague of 2387. She had never seen him look defeated before today. "Tell me," she whispered. 17 colonies, all gone. The Devourers consumed everything, the cities, the forests, even the oceans. They left nothing but dead rock floating in space. His hands shook as he held the datapad. Our best warships couldn't even scratch their holes. The entire 4th Fleet was destroyed in less than an hour. The council chamber fell silent, except for the distant wailing of the sirens outside. Through the great windows, they could see the last transport ships lifting off from the spaceports, carrying refugees to the shelters that everyone knew would not save them. "How long do we have?" Nara asked. 3 days? Maybe less. Nara closed her eyes and thought of her daughter, Lyra, who was already safe in the deepest shelter with the other children. At least she would not see what was coming. The Devourers were not like any enemy the galaxy had ever faced. They were not invaders seeking to conquer. They were consumers, mechanical swarms that ate entire worlds and left nothing behind but empty space. "What are our options?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. "We have 43 ships left," Admiral Kess replied, "mostly patrol boats and research vessels, against the Devourer swarm." He did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. Dr. Voss, the chief scientist, stepped forward. His skin showed the pale green of desperate hope. "We could try to evacuate more people to the outer system, hide in the asteroid belt until what?" Nara interrupted. "The Devourers will find us. They always do.
Oh.
And then they will consume the asteroids too, along with everyone hiding there." The room fell silent again. Outside, the last of the civilian transports disappeared into the underground landing bays. Soon, the surface would be empty except for the automated defense systems that would buy them perhaps an extra hour of life. Nara walked to the great communication console at the center of the chamber. It was connected to the most powerful transmitter on the planet, capable of sending signals across half the galaxy. For 300 years, it had been used to send messages of trade and friendship to other worlds. Today, it would send something different. Chancellor Admiral Kess asked. "What are you doing?" "Opening all communication channels," she replied, her fingers moving across the control panel. "Every frequency we know, every language in our database." "But why?" Nara looked back at the window, where the first stars were beginning to appear in the darkening sky. Somewhere out there, other species lived on other worlds. Most of them had never heard of the Zephrians. Most of them would never know this world had existed, but maybe one would listen. Maybe one would care if we are going to die. She said softly, "Let the galaxy know we existed. Let them know what is coming for them next." She paused, her skin shifting to the golden color of desperate hope. "And maybe someone out there will hear us and remember that we tried to warn them." Her hands moved over the controls, and the great transmitter came to life. Power flowed through the crystal arrays that crowned every building in the city. The message that went out was simple, broadcast in 47 different languages to every corner of known space. "We are the Zephrians of Kepler-4, for to be. Our world is dying. The machines that eat stars have found us, and our children hide in darkness, waiting for monsters that cannot be stopped. If anyone can hear this message, Remember us. Remember that we lived, that we loved, that we tried to protect what was precious to us, and beware what comes after. The Devourers will not stop with our world. They will consume everything in their path until the galaxy is empty and dark. This is our final gift to you, a warning and the knowledge that you are not alone in the universe, even if you are alone in your fight. The message went out across the stars like a prayer cast into the cosmic dark. In the council chamber, the Zephrians sat in silence, watching their world prepare to die. They did not expect an answer. They did not expect rescue. They only hoped that somewhere someone would hear their voice and know that once on a world called Kepler 4 to be. People had lived and loved and refused to surrender without warning others of the danger that was coming. Captain Lee Hayan was drinking his morning coffee and reading mining reports when the bridge of the Soul's Pride suddenly filled with the most beautiful and terrifying sound he had ever heard. Communications Officer Park Mina had put the alien transmission on full speakers, and the voice that came through was like music mixed with crying. The translation system worked slowly, turning the alien words into Korean. We are the Zephrians of Kepler 4 to be. Our world is dying. The machines that eat stars have found us, and our children hide in darkness, waiting for monsters that cannot be stopped. Lee Hyun put down his coffee cup. Around him, his bridge crew had stopped all their work to listen. Engineer Kim Soo-yang stood with her mouth open. Navigator Choi Wonbin had gone completely pale. If anyone can hear this message, the alien voice continued, remember us. Remember that we lived, that we loved, that we tried to protect what was precious to us. Beware what comes after. The Devourers will not stop with our world. Will consume everything in their path until the galaxy is empty and dark. When the message ended, the bridge was completely quiet, except for the soft humming of the ship's engines. Lee Hyun stared at the main screen, which showed their small exploration fleets floating in the darkness between stars. 12 ships total, cargo haulers, mining vessels, research ships, even one luxury cruise liner that had gotten lost and joined them by accident. Captain Park Mina said quietly, her voice shaking, I'm getting responses. Human ships all across this sector are picking up the signal. Lee Hyun's personal communicator started beeping. Then it started ringing. Then minutes. It was making so much noise that he had to turn the volume down. Ship captains from across 3 star systems were trying to reach him. The first call was from Captain Kim Jun-ho of the cargo hauler Busan Thunder. His weathered face appeared on the screen, and Lee Hyun could see that he had been crying. Hugh Shi-hu, Jun-ho said. Did you hear that message? Yes. We have to do something. Before Lee Hayon could answer, more calls came in. Commander Choi Minji from the research vessel Daegu Dream. Captain Yang Taeyeon from the luxury liner Incheon. Star, Dr. Song Yuna from the science ship Olsen Hope. Even old Captain Park Hyun-woo, who usually transported supplies to mining colonies and never talked to anyone unless he had to. Soon. Lee Hyun's screen was filled with faces. Dozens of human ship captains all talking at once. We can't ignore this, Kim Jun-ho was saying. Those people are going to die, added Choi Mingi. What about our own missions? Dr. Song Yuna asked. We're scientists and traders, not soldiers. What can we possibly do against something that destroys? Entire star fleets? Yang Taeyeon, whose luxury ship was full of wealthy tourists on vacation, spoke up. My passengers won't like it. But I can't just sail away knowing that children are hiding underground, waiting to be killed by monsters. Lee Hyun listened to them all argue. He thought about his daughter June, safe in her university dormitory back on Earth. She was probably in class right now, learning about galactic history and alien cultures. What would she think if she knew her father had received a cry for help from a dying world and done nothing? We go, he said suddenly. The screen went quiet. Everyone was looking at him. We go, he repeated, louder this time. All of us. Every ship that can make the jump to Kepler 4 to be. We figure out what to do when we get there. But Captain, Dr. Song Yuna protested, we don't have weapons. We don't have military training. Most of us are just what? Lee Han interrupted. Just people. So are they. So are the children hiding in those underground shelters, waiting for help that isn't coming? He looked at each face on his screen. My daughter is safe on Earth. Your families are safe on human worlds. But those alien children don't have anyone else. Kim Jun-ho nodded slowly. The boy's right. We can't live with ourselves if we don't try. I have mining lasers, said Captain Oh-si-han from the Gwangju Hammer. We can recalibrate them for combat. The cargo hold is full of processed metals, added Kim Jun-ho. Maybe we can use them as weapons somehow. I have the best sensors in the fleet, said Choi Min-ji. I can help with navigation and scanning. One by one, the captains agreed. Even young Taeon, after a long pause, said he would convince his passengers that this was a special adventure tour. Lee Haeon felt something he had not felt since he was young, the feeling that he was part of something bigger than himself. These were not military officers following orders. These were ordinary people who had heard a cry for help and decided they could not ignore it. Send word through the networks, he said. Personal messages, family connections, trading partners. Let every human captain in 3 sectors know what we heard today. Tell them where we're going and why. As the calls ended and the ships began preparing for the jump to hyperspace, Lee Haeon sat back in his captain's chair. He did not know what they would face when they reached Kepler 4-4 to be. He did not know if they could save anyone, but he knew they had to try. Admiral Kess stared at his tactical display in complete disbelief. Ships were appearing in the Kepler system like stars suddenly lighting up in the darkness. First 10, then 50, then hundreds of vessels emerged from hyperspace jumps. There, engines glowing bright blue against the black of space. Sir, his communications officer said, her voice filled with wonder. I count over 2,000 ships now, and more are still arriving. Kess studied the readings with growing amazement. These were unlike any warships in the Zephrian database. They were rough and practical, covered in scars from honest work, mining vessels with massive drilling equipment, cargo haulers with patched hull plates, research ships whose sensor arrays had been hastily modified with makeshift weapon mounts. Incoming. Transmission, communications officer announced. The human face that appeared on the main screen was middle-aged, with kind eyes and gray hair that made him look like somebody's father. This is Captain Lee Hain of the Human Merchant Marine. We received your distress call. Chancellor Nara rushed to the bridge, her skin cycling rapidly through different colors as she tried to process what she was seeing. Behind her came Dr. Voss, and the other council members all staring at the tactical display in shock. Captain Lee Huyan Nara said, her voice barely above a whisper, You came. But why? We are complete strangers to you. You owe us nothing. Lee Hyan's expression softened. No, Chancellor, your people in trouble. That's all we need to know. Admiral Kess stepped forward, pulling up long-range scans that showed the approaching Devourer swarm, a writhing mass of mechanical death that blotted out the stars behind it. Captain, I don't think you understand what you're facing. These creatures have consumed 17 civilizations. They destroyed our entire 4th fleet in less than an hour. Your ships ... forgive me, but they don't look like they were built for war. From another ship, a gravelly voice crackled over the communication system. Then I guess we'll have to be more stubborn than usual. The speaker was Captain Kim Jun-ho, whose weathered face appeared on a secondary screen. We didn't come here to win pretty. We came here to win. What happened next amazed the Zephrians even more than the arrival of the human fleet. Captain Lee Haeon began coordinating thousands of ships with an efficiency that seemed impossible. Within hours, vessels were sharing supplies, weapons, and even crew members. The luxury liner Incheon Star opened its ballrooms and converted them into fighter bays. Wealthy tourists worked alongside ship mechanics, turning their vacation cruise into a military base. I always wanted an adventure, one elderly passenger was heard saying as she helped install weapon systems. This is better than visiting boring museums. Mining ships like the Gwangju Hammer began recalibrating their rock-breaking lasers for combat. Captain Oh-si-han worked with his engineering team around the clock, turning equipment designed to cut through asteroids into weapons that could punch holes in enemy hulls. Dr. Song Yuna, aboard the research vessel Elson Hope, coordinated with science teams across the human fleet to analyze every piece of data the Zephrians had on Devourer technology. Their hulls adapt to energy weapons, she reported during a fleet-wide conference call. The more you hit them with the same type of attack, the less effective it becomes. But they seem vulnerable to kinetic impact and exotic matter disruption.
Good
thing we brought plenty of rocks, Kim Junho said with a grim smile, gesturing toward his cargo hold filled with processed asteroids and rare metals. Intended for orbital construction projects, the transformation was incredible to watch. Cargo ships emptied their holds and turned them into weapon storage. Research vessels shared their sophisticated sensor arrays with the entire fleet, creating a detection network more advanced than anything the Zephrians had ever seen. Even the small personal ships, family boats and private yachts that had joined the fleet along the way, found roles as scouts and message runners. Chancellor Nara watched all this activity from the bridge of her own command ship, her skin glowing, a steady gold color that Zephrians showed when they felt hope returning. "They're not even soldiers," she said to Admiral Kess. "Look at them miners, scientists, cargo haulers, even tourists. How are they doing this?" Admiral Kess studied the tactical display, where the human fleet was arranging itself into formations that looked chaotic, but moved with perfect coordination. "They're doing something we never learned how to do, Chancellor. They're working together. Not because they have to, but because they want to." As the Devourer swarm entered the outer system, moving like a plague of metal locusts toward the planet, Captain Lee Hayen's voice rang out across all communication channels. "All ships, this is command. No, in a few hours we're going to face something that has destroyed civilizations older and more advanced than ours. We don't have the best weapons or the strongest ships, but we have something those civilizations didn't have." He paused, looking directly into the camera. "We have each other. And we have people counting on us, not just the Zephrians below, but everyone in the galaxy who deserves to wake up tomorrow without fear." The human fleet moved into position, thousands of ships from hundreds of different worlds, united by nothing more than the simple belief that some things were worth fighting for. "Remember why we're here," Lehan continued. "Not for glory, not for conquest, for them. Yes. For everyone who should have the chance to see another sunrise." The battle began as the twin suns of Kepler 442b painted the sky in shades of gold and red. The Devourer swarm descended toward the planet like a storm of living metal, each unit the size of a city block, their writhing mechanical arms reaching hungrily toward the world below. The human fleet rose to meet them in high orbit. And what followed broke every rule of space combat that had ever been written. Captain Osehan found his mining ship Gwangju Hammer, surrounded by 3 massive Devourer units, their tentacle-like appendages lashing out to grab his vessel. A normal military captain would have retreated, called for backup, tried to escape. Instead, Osehan did something that made Admiral Kess gasp in horror from his command ship far below. He rammed his ship directly into the largest Devourer, the mining vessel's reinforced hull, built to survive asteroid impacts, punched through the enemy's adaptive armor like a spear through paper. As his ship's systems failed around him, Osehan activated his emergency beacon and spoke his final words. "Tell my daughter Minji that Daddy kept his promise. The monsters won't hurt anyone else." Explosion that followed crippled all 3 Devourer units. Across the battlefield, Captain Kim Junho watched his tactical display with grim satisfaction as his cargo ship, Bison Thunder, approached a cluster of enemy vessels. His hold was filled with rare earth metals and exotic particles intended for orbital construction, materials worth millions of credits. Without hesitation, he dumped the entire cargo bay directly into the Devourer formation. The exotic particles created cascading system failures that spread through the enemy network like a virus. 12 Devourer units simply stopped working, their mechanical bodies going dark and drifting away into space. "That's for the children hiding underground," Kim Junho muttered, already maneuvering toward his next target, Commander Choi Minji used her research vessel Daegu Dream like a mobile command center, her sophisticated sensors mapping weak points. In Devourer hulls and transmitting the data to every human ship in real time, when a plasma blast breached her power core and her ship began to die, she kept transmitting until the very last second. Target the junction points at sections 7 and 12. Her voice crackled over the communication network as her ship exploded in a ball of white fire. They can't adapt if you hit them there first. From the surface of Kepler 44b, Chancellor Nara and Admiral Kess watched through their telescopes as the impossible unfolded above them. These rough human vessels, working in perfect coordination, were achieving what the advanced Zephrian military had failed to do. The luxury cruise ship, Chinstar, had converted its swimming pools into improvised mass drivers, launching furniture, decorative sculptures, and even grand pianos at enemy weak points. Captain Yang Taeyeon's wealthy passengers worked alongside his crew, carrying ammunition and operating weapons with the desperate efficiency of people who had everything to lose. "I paid for a relaxing vacation," one elderly woman was heard saying, as she loaded another ornamental vase into the launcher, "but this is much more exciting. The humans didn't fight like any species in galactic records. They fought like every life in the universe depended on their success. When ships were damaged, their crews didn't retreat, they found new ways to be useful. When weapons ran out of ammunition, they improvised new ones. When communication systems failed, they used signal lights and emergency flares to coordinate attacks. They're not even professional soldiers," Admiral Kess whispered, watching a family transport ship use its atmospheric entry heat shields as ramming weapons. "Most of them have never seen combat before today." "No," Chancellor Nara replied, her skin glowing bright gold with wonder and hope. "There's something much better. There are people who choose to care about strangers." Captain Lee Hyun coordinated the entire battle from the Bridge of Soul's Pride, his calm voice cutting through the chaos as he directed ships to where they were needed most. When a Devourer destroyer broke through the human lines and targeted his vessel with a massive plasma cannon, he didn't flinch. The blast crippled his ship's engines and life support. But Lee Hyun calmly transferred fleet command to Captain Kim Jun-ho before the communication system died completely. "All ships," Kim Jun-ho's rough voice rang across the human fleet. "Captain Lee is counting on us. Everyone down there is counting on us. Today, we don't let anybody down. Today. Nobody dies on our watch." The improvised fleet fought on with a determination that defied logic. Dr. Song Yuna's research ship had lost its weapons, so she used her gravitational sensors to create artificial gravity wells that pulled Devourer units into each other. The mining ship Olsen Forge ran out of laser power, so Captain Park Hyun-woo used his ship's drilling equipment as close combat weapons, literally tearing enemy hulls apart with industrial tools. When the cargo hauler Incheon Thunder lost its engine, the crew didn't abandon ship. Instead, they turned their vessel into a stationary weapons platform, using their cargo manipulator arms to grab Devourer units and hold them in place for other ships to destroy. The battle cry that echoed across all human communication channels became a legend that would be remembered for 1,000 years. Not today, not on our watch, not while we still breathe. Above the planet Kepler 44b, ordinary people fought with the fury of heroes, and the sky burned with the light of their sacrifice. The turning point came when Dr. Song Yuna made a discovery that would change everything the galaxy thought it knew about the Devourers. Working frantically in her damaged laboratory aboard the research ship Olsen Hope, she studied pieces of wreckage from destroyed enemy units that had been collected by salvage drones. "Captain Kim," she transmitted urgently to the fleet commander, her voice shaking with excitement and exhaustion. "They're not just machines. I found something incredible hidden deep inside their cores." Captain Kim Jun-ho, coordinating the battle from his cargo ship while dodging plasma blasts, managed to spare a moment for her report. "What did you find, Doctor?" "Organic neural patterns. These things were alive once, or at least they were created by something alive. They're artificial intelligences, but old ones. Really old. I think they were guardians, designed to protect something precious. But their original programming has been corrupted somehow. Around the battlefield, human ships continued their desperate fight against the mechanical swarm. The luxury liner Incheon Star had lost half its hull, but kept firing makeshift weapons. The mining vessel Daijin Drill used its last power reserves to ram another Devourer unit. Everywhere, people were dying to buy Dr. Song Yuna at the time she needed to work. "Can we reach them?" Kim Jun-ho asked as his ship shuddered under enemy fire. "Can we talk to whatever they used to be?" "Maybe, but not. With weapons or technical data, we need to try something completely different." Dr. Song Yuna worked with communications officers across the remaining human fleet, connecting their quantum transmitters into a single, powerful broadcasting array. Her plan was insane. Instead of fighting the Devourers, she wanted to tell them stories? Stories? Captain Park Hyun-woo asked from his damaged mining ship. "Doctor, we're in the middle of a battle. People are dying." "Trust me," Dr. Song Yuna replied. "If I'm right, this might be our only chance to save everyone." She began broadcasting on frequencies that reached deep into the Devourer network. But instead of military commands or surrender demands, she told them about Earth's history, spoke of civilizations that had fallen and risen again, of species that had chosen cooperation over conquest. Captain Park Hyun-woo, his ship barely holding together, shared the story of his grandfather who had helped rebuild Seoul after the climate wars. "He used to tell me that the most powerful thing in the universe isn't a weapon," Park Hyun-woo said into his transmitter. "It's the choice to help someone else, even when you have nothing left to give." Engineer Shin Arium, working to keep her ship's power running while under enemy fire, broadcasts her grandmother's recipes. "Food brings families together," she explained to the alien intelligence that might be listening. "It reminds us that we're all just trying to survive and take care of the people we love." And the story spread through the Devourer network like ripples in a pond. Tales of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Accounts of species working together instead of destroying each other. Simple human experiences, sharing meals, raising children, helping neighbors that had somehow survived the long journey across space. For the first time in millennia, the mechanical swarm hesitated. On several Devourer units, ancient systems, that had been sleeping for eons, suddenly awakened. Deep in their cores, original programming began reasserting itself. These machines remembered what they had been created to do, not consume and destroy, but protect and preserve. Some Devourer units stopped attacking completely. Their weapons powered down. They began broadcasting their own signals. Complex mathematical patterns that Dr. Song Yuna realized were attempts at communication. They were trying to remember how to talk. Other units, too damaged by centuries of corruption, chose a different path. Rather than continue their endless consumption, they activated self-destruct sequences, destroying themselves rather than cause more harm. The remaining swarm, confused and fractured by the sudden awakening of their dormant siblings, retreated into the deep void between stars. As the second sun rose over Kepler 4b, the surviving human ships, barely half the original fleet, maintained orbit alongside grateful Zephrian vessels. The cost had been enormous. Thousands of people had died, including heroes like Captain Oh Se-han and Commander Choi Min-ji. But both species had survived. Captain Lee Hun-yan, recovered enough from his injuries to return to duty, stood on the observation deck of a Zephrian medical station. Through the transparent walls, he could see human and Zephrian children playing together in the rebuilt cities below. Their laughter echoed through the corridors, the sound of life continuing despite everything that had tried to stop it. 3 months later, Chancellor Nara addressed the Galactic Council on the neutral world of Centauri Prime. Representatives from 47 different species listened as her skin glowed steady gold, the Zephrian color of joy and hope. "The humans taught us something we had forgotten," she said to the assembled delegates. "Strength isn't measured in weapons or technology. It's measured in the willingness to stand together when darkness comes." One proposed we establish the Mutual Defense Coalition, an alliance based on the simple principle that no species should face extinction alone. The proposal passed unanimously. Back on Kepler 4 for 2b, joint patrol ships stood ready in orbit, not as conquerors or overlords, but as friends who had learned that sometimes the greatest victory isn't in standing alone, but in refusing to let others do so. In his final captain's log, Lihian wrote, "Today we learned that hope isn't something you find in the darkness. Hope is something you choose to give to others, even when you think there's none left for yourself."